Welcome back to the Unrestricted, folks. I'm Vex. Bulldog absent today, but Bob's with us. What do you say, Bob?
I say apparently the week has turned out the way you thought it was. So
Kind of nailed that
you
one,
were
didn't
right,
I?
didn't you? Yeah.
Yeah, I said it was going to be the busiest trade deadline that we could remember. And
What's the joke about a broken clock?
oh, you're right, twice a day. Yeah. Well, look, all signs pointed to it being what it was. Look, an absolute atomic bomb got dropped on the NBA, and that's why I had to bring in my man Marcus Valdespino today. Marcus, what's up?
Hey, what's going on?
I know
guys?
you're a hoops head, same as me.
Yes.
Were you just glued yesterday to what was going on?
I was glued, and I was glued the previous night when I think ESPN Scott Van Pelt said, "Oh, we have a Woj bomb," and then they went to commercial, and I was like, and he said Durant's been traded to the Suns, and then they just showed like a blank chair of they were waiting for Kyrie Irving's press conference, and it was kind of terrible for him to do that like right away, and then they went to commercial, so I was like, I freaked out, so I started texting people.
Of course.
I was like, whoa, and you knew something was probably going to happen once Kyrie left. I didn't. Durant's 34 years old. He wants to win a championship. If this was Durant at 28, 29, maybe he sticks it out with it because the Nets, the cupboard isn't bare, right?
No.
He's got a lot of young, good talent there, but 34 years old, get out of there. He wanted out of there.
No doubt about it. And we talked about this last week, Marcus and Bob, that we didn't think a Durant trade, that there was enough time to make that big of a deal. But what I didn't think of, as I said that last week, and by the way, I kind of stand by that Phoenix and the Nets already had the groundwork for this trade pretty much set up last summer because this deal almost happened during the summer.
Yes.
You know, so they were already, let's say, 3/4 of the way down the road for this deal. It probably really didn't take a whole lot of negotiation between the Suns and Nets.
Just a crazy owner.
Well, that's okay. Bill Simmons likes to call it new owner syndrome. Mm-hmm. And Matt Ishbia, the brand new owner of the Suns, kicked James Jones, his general manager, in the butt and said, do it, do it, pull the trigger, let's go for it. And now they got him, and they gave away a lot to get him.
Yeah.
I mean, a whole lot. But Phoenix has to be the biggest winner at the trade deadline, and now it's just a matter of coming through, right? Yeah. They got to win a championship.
It's kudos to James Jones. I don't know if you remember him. Sure. He was a hell of a shooter in his day, but, he knows basketball. I was surprised. Listen, this is one of those trades where it's championship or bust kind of, and they got like a 1 or 2 year window here.
I agree.
And it sounds good, and let's, for their sake, let's hope it works out. But 4 future first round picks and then a couple of players they gave them, and they gave up a lot. They better win this title or next year, or it doesn't look good.
It could be the Nets all over again, which is so scary. Like, here's the thing for Kevin Durant, and he is one of the pantheon players that the league has ever had. You want to say top 15? Okay. Top 20? I'd say for sure he's top 20 to ever play. Like, he has never had a situation where he's been happy. He is 34 years old.
Yeah.
He is single, and he has no kids. How the hell can you not be happy, Kevin Durant? He got screwed over by a couple of bad dudes, Ben Simmons, James Harden, Kyrie Irving, in reverse order of bad dude there, by the way. With that Nets situation. And look, what we thought was going to be a super team in Brooklyn was nothing. They won 1 playoff series. And now we think that Phoenix is the next super team.
Right.
Well, let's not be so sure.
If you're a Nets fan, are you like looking for a psychiatric facility to deal with your depression now?
Honestly, no. This is one of the rare trades where I think both teams won. I swear to God, Sean Marks and the rest of the Nets are thrilled to have Kyrie Irving gone.
They accumulated their draft picks again, they lost.
They did.
Now, they may be low draft picks. If Phoenix wins the title, okay, those draft picks are going to be 30 and whatever, or 20. Yeah. But once those guys, they have the 4th. I bet that 3rd and 4th year, those picks are going to come back to the pack. Chris Paul will be retired. So
Kevin Durant will be older and maybe moved along. Yeah.
Kudos to,
And they get 2 automatic starters in Cam Johnson and Mikal Bridges.
They do, yeah.
Look, they have a nice nucleus. It's not bad.
And Cam Thomas, people say he's come out of nowhere, but I tell you,
nowhere.
I'm a gambling person, and about 2 months ago, I think I bet on the Pacers because somebody told me, a friend of mine said, the Nets have nobody now. And then Cam Thomas dropped 40-something.
Yep.
And I said, yeah, he's pretty good. This was like a couple of months ago. So he's their former first-round pick, so it's not out of nowhere. The cupboard is not bare.
They have some stuff there.
Yeah.
And, where they sit in the Eastern Conference, in the top 6. Look, are they going to take a dip?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I would think so. But I don't think they're going to dip all the way out of the play-in games.
Right.
Like, Mikal Bridges is a show-up every night and give you 20 kind of guy, especially with those surroundings. I think they'll take a dip, but it's not that bad.
And Harris is Joe Harris.
Yeah.
I think he's, and I'm not, this isn't hyperbole, I think he's the top 10 shooter in the world. I'm talking about in the world. If I had to pick 10 people to shoot a jump shot, a 25-foot three-pointer with a second left on the clock, Joe Harris would be in my top 10.
Yeah, he would be.
Yeah.
Look, it's not a bad roster. I would say that one part for Sean Marks that I can't believe that he still swung the deal without getting back DeAndre Ayton. That the Suns were able to keep Ayton in this mega deal for Kevin Durant is really amazing to me.
And you hit it right on because a friend of mine asked, what did they get? And he said, is Ayton in the deal? And I said, I don't think so. And then he said, well, I know the Nets got their picks back, but then the Suns won.
Yeah.
Because they kept their 7-foot guy who is eventually going to have to get in the face of Nikola Jokic and make things tough on him.
Absolutely.
If they don't have that guy, then I don't know. I don't know.
They couldn't be the team that we expect them to be, frankly. Right. I mean, that is huge for Phoenix that they were able to keep him. And now they're the favorites in the West. They're the second favorite, looking at the numbers, looking at the gambling numbers. Second favorite to win it all. Boston is still plus 325. Phoenix is at plus 400. Milwaukee at plus 550. I think people are sleeping on Milwaukee a little bit, maybe just a little bit. But I think, honestly, the Nets and Phoenix are both winners. One of the losers at the deadline, I would say, is the Dallas Mavericks. Sorry, Mavs fans. Actually, sorry, not sorry. I can't stand the Mavericks. I think Luka's a hell of a ball player, but you just bought yourself a 3-month headache for a first-round pick that, who knows if he's even going to re-sign there.
I think Mark Cuban was feeling a lot of pressure. I don't know if the talks out of Dallas they were actually making billboards saying, Luka, and then like a house like empty with nobody as nobody, and that was kind of surprising to me because I thought Spencer Dinwiddie
send help now.
Yeah, send help now. I thought Spencer Dinwiddie would be better. I thought Tim Hardaway would be better, but they just weren't. I'm glad Spencer Dinwiddie is back with the Nets. I think he can take over games. I actually think the Eastern Conference is a little bit easier to take over games than the Western Conference, so I think Spencer is back at home, which is good. But yeah, Mark Cuban was under a lot of pressure to get a name to help Luka to take the pressure off. And he won in that regard. He's going to put butts in the seats. That's what this guy's worried about well. It seems like he's one of those owners that, does he want to win? Sure. But it's like he's got his 2011 championship in his back pocket, And so it's like I said, it's not like he wants to win, but he needed a name that you just said Dallas Maverick fans, sorry, but you're not going to go you're not going to go anywhere. But I'm telling you right now, that put butts in the seats. That got people rejuvenated over there when you have a talent like Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic to say, here, your turn, my turn. Now, usually your turn, my turn doesn't work in the NBA to win a title. Yeah. It's fun for the regular season, kids. Yeah. But, eventually that will wane out probably in the second round. They might win a first round. Second round, they should be done. That's old school. Now, this is a make or miss league. If they make it to the Western Conference Finals, that would be a miracle. That means that Kyrie and Luka were just unbelievably on fire. I don't think they make it past the second round. But what it does for this type of owner, Mark Cuban, it puts butts in the seats.
It does that, and it puts them back in the headlines in Dallas, which is also important to them. Look, Kyrie and Luka on the offensive end, that could be magic. They also have to play defense, and Kyrie doesn't do a whole lot of it. Luka doesn't do a whole lot of it. They just let go of Dorian Finney-Smith, who was their best defensive player. I just don't know how that's going to work. You mentioned Dinwiddie going home. You want to know one of the weirdest coincidences about yesterday's trade deadline? How many guys went back to a team where they began? Jakob Poeltl.
Yeah, he did.
Okay. John Wall.
And he went back a much better player. But yeah, John Wall.
True.
I forgot John Wall was in the league, but he went home.
He went home. D'Angelo Russell back to the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah.
I think I might even be missing a couple.
Yeah, you're probably missing a couple. Yeah,
there are a lot of guys that wound up going back from whence they came. Look, I think Dallas is in big trouble if they think they're going to win the West, particularly because Phoenix just played an ace of spades, right?
Yeah.
When you get a Pantheon player, and I was listening to somebody earlier today, only 3 of the real top players in the history of this league have ever been traded during their prime. Wilt, twice. Kareem. Barkley.
Yeah, Barkley, yeah.
And that's pretty much it.
LeBron.
He
No,
was never
no,
traded.
that's right, no
He was
trades.
never
Yeah,
traded.
you just
he left
moved.
in free
Thank you.
agency. Only 3 of them have ever been traded, and now 4 with
Listen.
Kevin Durant. You know who wins these every single time?
The
team
agent?
the team that gets the big talent, the team that gets the Pantheon guy every single time.
And let's be honest, I don't like Kevin Durant like as a person. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah,
When he made
fair.
the jump to the Warriors,
Yep.
I thought that was a chicken shit move, and I
Yep.
I hated it. Right, but I'm gonna give Kevin Durant a lot of credit here in terms of when he came back from his Achilles injury. I thought that he might, come back with Achilles injury and be a Klay Thompson because he didn't have the lateral movement. He's not going to be able to play his defense as well as he has, or go to the go to the basket as strong as that he has.
Yep.
And I thought he'd be, well, if he comes back and just a Klay Thompson, a shooter, come off screens and gets 23 a game, I thought that'd be pretty good coming
he's
off
a
that Achilles
shooter.
at his age.
Sure.
He came back stronger than ever, better than ever, and an MVP candidate. I'm proud of him for that. I got to give him all the credit in the world. And I guess that's why you do give up 4 first-round picks.
That's why you go get that guy. And by the way, sneaky Phoenix Suns move, just on the periphery of everything. They let go of Dario Saric to Oklahoma City, and they got back Darius Baisley, who is a lanky son of a gun, who I promise is going to play important minutes for the Suns. Suns thin on the bench, but Baisley's going to help them.
6'9", moves his feet,
Moves
can play
well.
defense. You can never have enough. If you have your star players, right? I want the 6'9" guy that's gonna dunk stuff back in. With Kevin Durant, they can't do everything all the time. On the break, Basic's gonna get it and dunk
Yeah,
it.
Go back door when
absolutely,
everybody's staring
absolutely.
at Kevin Durant.
Absolutely.
He's a nice little player.
And by the way, there's no more Hakeem Olajuwons and Tim Duncans and protecting the rim anymore.
That's right.
You're gonna. It's either a 3 or a go to the basket and dunk. So
No
that's
doubt.
what Basic's gonna do.
Okay, I've read a bunch of winner-loser sort of things that are on the internet from everybody, from The Ringer to The Atlantic, everybody. And I seem to be different than kind of everybody.
You are different than everybody.
Well, yeah, that's right.
Just a little.
The Lakers, I thought were a huge, huge winner yesterday. No. Look, they dumped Russell Westbrook,
Okay, yeah.
and I guess that's actually Sunday, but yes, this week. They dumped Russell Westbrook, who was, according to reports, a vampire in their locker room.
Yeah.
Okay, and they get rid of the headache. They only give up one of their 2 future first-round draft picks, and they get back a ton of help. Mo Bamba, not much help. Jared Vanderbilt, a lot of help, a lot of energy, good shot blocker, great offensive rebounder, energy guy who I think can really help the Lakers because they don't have a lot of energy guys. They get D'Angelo Russell, who's been a pain in the ass everywhere, but one thing he can do is stand around and shoot. And you get Malik Beasley, who can really fill it up. They just
I like
found
Malik.
themselves a bench,
I like Malik.
which they didn't have. They never had a bench. Now they have one. This is interesting for the Lakers.
I remember your take on Mo Bamba coming out of the draft, and you said he didn't have one skill set desirable for the NBA, and I thought that was pretty harsh. But you kind of ended up being right because he actually didn't, and I think just recently, I think he's developed a 3-point shot, which is
Neat.
a little weird to go by your, to say that they did well, at this trade deadline. If you're gonna, obviously you have to factor this in addition by subtraction.
Yeah.
Getting rid of the whatever the guy
Vampire.
said, the guy said vampire. Then they did do well. If you're gonna get rid of Russell Westbrook, my thing with D'Angelo Russell is I thought that he'd be a lot better.
Me
like
too.
I
was high on him.
and when you watch the playoff game with he and Cat and Anthony Edwards, he kind of just faded away in the playoffs, and that's still I'm a person where you do that one time, and I don't really need to see it too. You fade away like that, like Wiggins has faded away in the playoffs. His one shot, he was an all-star and he faded away in the playoffs. Almost like play like a bum, right?
Yeah.
But then he goes to Golden State, culture change.
Yep.
He's starting to play. He plays better, right? But yeah, D'Angelo Russell was one of those guys where he just faded away, and I guess they did get better. Yeah, it's the addition by subtraction, but it wasn't. I don't think it was like, oh my God, what do you think they're going to do in the West? I mean, it's not like, oh my God, they got better. Like they're going to.
So they didn't just become the favorite. You're absolutely right. But look, they were, by all accounts, a dead team when LeBron broke the scoring record on Tuesday night. Like, yeah, he had a nice moment, but that team in that locker room was kaput. They were going nowhere. all of a sudden you get this thing that LeBron has done in a lot of stops. He did it in Cleveland. He did it to a lesser degree in Miami, and he's doing it again here, where he says during the season, hey, all these bums that I'm playing with are bums. You got to go get me help. And the bums who are in the locker room with him are like, hey, you're talking about me, right? So they get pissed off. But what LeBron accomplished in Cleveland when he did that was he made management go out and get an overhaul. I remember they brought in Larry Nance and I forget who the other guys were, but they were, peripheral players, not necessarily important, but it brought a whole new attitude to the locker room. And with about 30 games left, I'm looking at the Lakers saying these 30 games are a sprint for them. And if they can get their shit together in those 30 games, change their attitude, it's basically a new roster.
God, anything's better than the disrespectful game they played when LeBron James broke Kareem's scoring record. OKC, and I actually had to call my wife to the TV in the last 5 minutes of the game. OKC was walking to the basket and laying it in. Like, there was literally, you talk about Olay. It was one of the worst things I ever seen. They'd come down. That's kind of the new NBA a little bit. There's not as good as defense.
But the Lakers looked like they had quit. They really did.
Really bad.
Yeah, I agree. They looked like a dead team Tuesday night. Yeah. They really did. Other than LeBron, who was kind of out there for himself. I have this as a winner. Your San Antonio Spurs. Brother, they got a first-round draft pick back for Jakob Poeltl.
Yeah.
Okay,
absolutely.
that is a big deal. And yeah, it's top 6 protected, but that's minimal protection.
Oh my God,
NBA.
it's a good thing it wasn't 1 through 16 protected.
I was expecting that.
Yeah, at least we're gonna get probably a 7 through 20 pick, which could be up there 9, 10, and in that next year's draft, I've heard that these next 3 drafts are gonna be pretty special, even with some second round picks. It could be first round talent.
So that is a great take. The NBA talent pool has never been this deep. Getting all of these second round picks, late first round picks, I think is brilliant for the teams that are amassing them, because you're in the gyms around San Antonio and you see the AAU spotlights on TV, the depth of talent of basketball players, and it's worldwide, it's not just American, has never been deeper. Okay. I want as many bites at the apple as you could possibly give me.
Right.
So to get a fistful of second round picks from New Orleans, for Devontae Graham, for Josh Richardson. Devontae Graham comes back to us. Look, I like Devontae Graham. He's okay. Doesn't really move the needle for me. Josh Richardson goes out, but it's that handful, a fistful, 5, right? 5?
Yeah.
5 second-round picks. It's amazing for the San Antonio Spurs. And by the way, just going back to the Lakers, remember the Lakers only gave up 1 first-round pick for Malik Beasley, Mike Conley, who was going in a different direction, but he was in the trade, and Jared Vanderbilt. Those 3 guys from Utah only got Utah a first-round pick. All the Spurs had to give up was 1 dude, Jakob Poeltl, who they probably weren't going to be able to keep in the summer anyway.
Now the Spurs now the Spurs are set up. Now they're probably only going to have 1 first-round pick next year, but it's a big deal because it's going to be the ping pong balls maybe 1, 2, or 3, which gives them a 14% chance. Where you don't want to be in next year's draft is the 4th best team, because then your odds go from 14% to 10%. And so you probably won't end up with the number 1 pick. So you got to stay in that top 3. And it's a race to the bottom between the Rockets, Hornets, and Spurs, and I think one other team. But there's a couple other teams that at the deadline decided that they wanted to be part of that. I think Utah is one of those. But Utah did too much winning early in the season. No, they can't. They won't get that low. Mm-hmm. Did you mention Orlando? They're on the periphery of being that bad. Right. But really, there's Charlotte, definitely. Houston, definitely. Spurs, for sure. We've talked about this before. The Rockets are too talented to be in that bottom, but they're losing some of these games really close. They're like, you're not going to go out there and tell your team, hey, go out there and lose. What you're going to do is you're going to put a product on there that's probably not going to be successful. But it's hard to do that with the Rockets, because even if you're sitting some guys, the guys that are coming in are really talented. I mean, and how are you going to tell Jabari Smith not to go out there and ball? How are you going to tell, for example, Banchero, Orlando? Yeah. They're going to go out there and ball, and they're winning you games.
Yes.
And so what you do is you deactivate this guy. You trade away Jakob Poeltl so there's no offensive rebounding. Yeah. You trade away Josh Richardson, because once in a while Josh Richardson can hit you 30, and
still good.
Damn, we won the game.
Yes.
So you get rid of those guys, and that's who you deactivate before the games.
I think the Spurs did a good job of almost assuring themselves at the trade deadline of being a bottom 3 team.
Right.
Speaking of Houston, what the hell are they doing? They had Eric Gordon. He was wanted by a number of teams. They ship him to the Clippers, and they just get a couple second-round picks. What are you doing? Like, shouldn't they be able to get something better for Eric Gordon than that?
He's a little up there in age.
Yes.
I think that's why I loved Eric Gordon. Excuse me, Eric Gordon coming out of college. I thought he was just fabulous. I thought he was going to be maybe a 5 or 6 time All-Star. Now he did he make it once or twice? Maybe once. I'm not sure. But he's a career 17 points per game. He's pretty good, pretty good player. But he's getting up there in age. That's why they didn't get too much.
He's kind of a can't miss guy when he's open too.
I'm surprised he's been floundering there in Houston. Why wouldn't that guy want to? I'd be like, get me out of here. Give me to he could be a missing piece to a contender, and he's floundering in there in Houston for the last few years.
So now he goes to the Clippers. Okay. And I have the Clippers on I have no idea whether this is going to work or not team list, okay? I got 3 teams on I saw your moves, but I'm not sure I know what you're thinking because this may not work. I got Clippers, Bucks, and Denver on that list. Clippers got Bones Highland for 2 second-round draft picks. Holy crap, that is so cheap for a guy as good as Bones Highland. I'm like, did the Spurs phone not ring on that?
Yeah.
Or is it that Bones Highland is such a head case that the Spurs just didn't want him? Because if you can't play with Nikola Jokic, if you're unhappy playing with Jokic and Jamal Murray and all where the ball slings around the way it does in the beautiful game that they play, if you're unhappy there, man, forget it. You ain't going to be happy in San Antonio.
It's got to be between the years with Bones because he's such a high talent.
Yes.
And he might come to the Spurs, and he might be one of those where, hey, Bones went off tonight, and we won the game. We weren't supposed to, so don't get Bones.
Okay, so maybe that's why we didn't go get him, right?
Yeah.
So the Clippers get Eric Gordon, Bones Highland, and Mason Plumlee. Okay. Bones Highland is basically a one-on-one player. Eric Gordon plays the exact same position as Kawhi Leonard, as Terrence Mann, I don't see how he's going to fit into their rotation.
Well, Bones is going to replace Reggie, so that's pretty much the same. Reggie Jackson, that's pretty much the same production. I mean,
they needed to have that, right? Because getting Reggie Jackson was kind of weird to me. He was so good for them in the playoffs last year. I don't know. Look, to be determined for you guys, Clippers, because they have a roster that can compete on any given night with anybody. But I don't know how those guys, chemistry-wise, are going to gel. The Bucks didn't make any big splash, which isn't surprising, but they do bring in Jay Crowder, who's a proven playoff guy, a 4-man who can space the floor. I think that's a nice addition. I don't know if that was enough because Jay Crowder hasn't played ball all year, and the last we saw him play in the playoffs last year, he wasn't very good. So I don't know.
Listen, the Milwaukee Bucks, when they're clicking and they're going, they're a machine. And Giannis Antetokounmpo is a machine.
He is.
And they just kill you downhill. They'll kill you defensively. I think the way they've advanced in the playoffs, and we've been Spurs fans, so we know the grind. 82-game season. Then they won the title, and then they get all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals, whatever. It is a grind for them. They're just playing out the string. Did you watch Milwaukee played the Lakers the other night? Milwaukee beat them by 9, and they went through the motions.
Really?
I mean,
it was just easy for them.
Holy smokes. I mean, there was a couple of times where Chris Middleton got a rebound, and he threw the ball back up with a turnaround. Nobody was even in his face. Like if he was playing 21 outdoors with his brother. Now Giannis went downhill and he had to do that, but some of the Milwaukee Bucks, I mean, they looked disinterested. They were letting the Lakers score. It was just, I mean, they could have lost that game last night and being disinterested. I think they're getting ready when they gear up for that playoffs and that playoff start. I think the Milwaukee Bucks are a machine and they will turn it on.
I love that they added Joe Ingles in the offseason. Yeah. He's been huge for them. Yeah. The Bucks are totally, utterly slept on. And the fact that Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving just left their conference is a huge help to them. I mean, they still got to get through Boston. That's going to be a bitch. Cleveland might be a sleeper over in the East. Yeah. But really, truly, the Bucks are just the most, ignored great team in the entire league. I have Denver on my, I don't know if you did enough list, right? Like when the Kevin Durant move happened in the middle of the night, I thought that every team in the West was going to go absolutely batshit trying to beef themselves up. I was expecting Golden State. I was expecting Denver to all make seismic moves. And Denver has some guys that could make those kind of moves because they've got Kevin Porter Jr. They had Bones Highland. I thought that they were going to make a big package deal to get in Bradley Beal, something like that. They didn't. Instead, all they get is Thomas Bryant from the Lakers, who's a nice player and a good backup for the minutes that Jokic isn't on the floor. By the way, the numbers on Jokic on the court, off the court, are the worst in the NBA. Denver goes to absolute shit when he steps off the court, which isn't surprising, right?
That's why he's got to hit the bench when they're up 10.
Yeah.
So he gets back in, they're only down 2.
Yeah.
There's a 12. They lost 12 points. I like the Bryant move. This guy's running the floor, grabs your rebounds. He doesn't rebound as well as I think he should, but he's a good rebounder. The guy flies. He can, you give him on the ball on the break, it's dunk city. What if the GM of the Denver Nuggets sat down and told you, hey, I think we're good, and I think this chemistry is great. I think I don't want to mess it up. I don't want to take away shots from Jamal Murray. He's getting back into rhythm from his injury. Porter's playing nice. I like the way Aaron Gordon is getting into the flow. I like the way him and Jokic are doing their thing.
Good together.
We want to see how good we can do. We understand that Durant just made the move, but we think with our chemistry and our ball movement, remember, Jeff, there's only one basketball.
Yes.
And so Denver does pretty well with that one basketball.
Yeah.
And maybe they're saying, hey, we think we're good enough to win it. Watch us.
I can respect that. And maybe he's playing the long game a little bit too, because they are on a very different timeline than are these Suns, right? These Suns are approximately 35 years old. Kevin Durant's 34. Chris Paul's 38. But they're on a much older timeline. And, yeah, the Nuggets, they got a bright future ahead of them. Here's my WTF list. In other words, what the fuck were y'all thinking? The Chicago Bulls. You are not good. You're bad, okay? And you were neither a buyer nor a seller. They're one of only 2 teams that didn't make a trade. Can you believe that, by the way? Only 2 teams didn't make a trade at this deadline. I promise you that's never happened.
There goes your craziest draft. I mean, the trade deadline, craziest trade deadline.
Only
there you
2.
go.
Only two. Cavs and Bulls. Now, the Cavs I kind of understand because I think the Cavs like where they're standing.
I do, too. I bet you do, too.
I do, a lot.
Okay.
Like, the Cavs are a sleeper out in that Eastern Conference. I am a little surprised that the Cavaliers didn't go after Bogdanovich from Detroit. I think he would have made a really nice fit for them at the 3 spot. And speaking of that, Detroit, you're in my what the F column. Why didn't you trade Bogdanovich? He's 30 years old. He's not on the timeline of Cade Cunningham and Jalen Duren and everybody else. Why didn't you trade him? You could have gotten a first rounder from anybody for him.
That made no sense. He could be a missing. He's 6'8" and can shoot the ball. He's not like his brother. His brother's a 6'6" guard that can ball handle and can beat you off the dribble.
Yeah.
This Bogdanovich you're talking about is a standstill shooter and plays okay defense. He could have been a missing piece for a title contender.
Wouldn't you have loved to have had him as the 3-man in Cleveland?
Yes.
Holy cow, he would have been perfect.
Absolutely.
There.
Yeah.
Continuing
and
along
real
that
quick
line,
on the Bulls, they're the most disappointing team to me
they
in the
sure are.
NBA.
They sure
you got
are.
DeRozan and Vucevic and
Ball when he's healthy and Levine.
and Levine, and they're disappointing to where they're at right now.
They could have.
I don't even.
Levine.
They're not even 500. I don't think.
No, they're not. They're probably going to miss the play-in.
Yeah.
Okay, that's how bad they are.
Yeah.
And you have Levine, who other teams want. You have DeRozan, who other teams would love to have. Like, these are pieces that people would give up a lot of assets for, and you just sat on it and said, no, we're good. We're good being bad. What are y'all doing? Detroit, by the way, who I mentioned just a minute ago, why didn't you trade Bogdanovich? You also brought in James Wiseman, who is, look, that's interesting. Maybe he's got a great upside. He also plays the same position as all of your other young guys. And Jalen Duren, Beef Stewart. That's all they got over there.
Detroit got rid of their best shooter, Sadiq Bey.
Yes, and not enough.
Not enough. And man, Sadiq Bey, there's some nights where that guy don't miss.
I know.
He does not miss.
For
the Atlanta Hawks to get him, the Atlanta could be on the up. I mean, I don't like how they play sometimes, but I think they got too many one-on-one players. But hey, they could be on the way up with Sadiq Bey because they need him to stand in the corner. Hey, I'm in trouble. Boom, you got it.
Nail it. Yeah, absolutely. the weirdest thing about Sadiq Bey to Atlanta, Atlanta's like the one team that I don't think needed him. Like, you know who I think needed Sadiq Bey? Golden State.
Ooh.
Golden State would have been nice to have him as next to Draymond, sliding in for Draymond sometimes. He would have been really nice.
And as soon as Klay Thompson goes to the bench, you bring in Sadiq, and you don't lose a whole lot.
Right. Boston would have been nice for Sadiq Bey.
Yeah.
But Atlanta, AJ Griffin has turned himself into a knockdown shooter for Atlanta. They got Hunter, who's a nice shooter. And
I love DeAndre Hunter.
Me too. Like, of all the teams, and I love Sadiq Bey, why would you want to go there? I don't know. Doesn't make sense to me. More losers. Toronto. Hey, Toronto, you're not good either. You're just like the Bulls. Yeah. You got talented players that other teams want. You're a middling 500 team. You're going nowhere fast in the Eastern Conference, and you were neither a buyer nor a seller, except for that you did take on Jakob Poeltl, who you're going to lose in the summer. What are y'all thinking?
Messiah Ujiri is doing his Mark Cuban. I got my championship in my back pocket, and I'm just going to ride this thing out, and we'll see what happens in the offseason.
Maybe that is what it is, because
when you right, he is. But when these guys when you get a title, some of these franchises kind of rest on that for a while, like, and then there's not pressure from the fan base. Oh, you got to get another one right now. And sometimes you get a championship. These guys coast until they get good again. They're not really like, oh my God, we got to win it every year like some organizations.
You and I have loved Fred VanVleet since Wichita State.
Man,
he's been great. He's totally underrated in this league.
Man.
And he's not working right now for Toronto. It's not giving them enough. There are teams all around this league. The Clippers, for instance. How good would the Clippers have been if they had added VanVleet instead of Bones Highland? Holy cow, they would have been terrifying.
If Kawhi Leonard had an IQ, he'd walk up to he'd go up to the general manager, he'd walk in the owner's office and say, get me Fred VanVleet and we'll win a championship.
Yeah, because we've done that before.
You think Kawhi did that?
No, probably
Hell
not. No. I mean, VanVleet was coveted all around the league, and they didn't move him. Same with OG Anunoby. Everybody wanted him. They didn't move him. I don't get it. Siakam could have gotten a huge haul. I mean, like, not quite the Durant deal, but something just.
Got two.
Yeah, they could have gotten 2 first-round picks.
You possibly could have. If a team out there really thinks that Pascal Siakam is the missing piece,
send him to Miami, maybe something like that.
You know, you're getting a first-round pick for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Probably 2. Yeah. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what Toronto's doing. They're going to be bad again. Minnesota, they win by subtraction because D'Angelo Russell is gone, and that did not work. But Minnesota, if you're going to give away D'Angelo Russell and you're going to bring back Mike Conley, who's on his last leg,
oh man,
and you have Cat up front alongside Gobert and his albatross of a contract, you had to find a way to attach Karl Anthony Towns to a deal to reset your franchise. I mean, Karl Anthony Towns would have looked nice in New York. Karl Anthony Towns would have looked nice with the Golden State Warriors.
Oh yeah.
I mean, hell, you could have taken the gamble on Weissman. You probably could have gotten Poole too if you had sent Karl Anthony Towns to Golden State. What are y'all doing up there, Minnesota?
It's the organization. I mean, I call it. I hate to use this word with these guys, but they're a bunch of bums.
They are.
Karl Anthony Towns, I hate to sound like Charles Barkley, but get your butt down in the box. This guy, do you watch Karl Anthony Towns in the playoffs? He thinks he's Stephen Curry, the 7-foot Stephen Curry. That's great that you can shoot. Wonderful. Bravo. Now get your butt down in the box and let's get some easy buckets.
Yeah, that's where teams who win is when their 4 and 5 guys are downstairs, right? Yeah. It's not when they're floating around 40 feet from the hoop. Big loser. Massive loser to me. And I don't know if you agree or disagree. Portland ships out Josh Hart, who was one of their core guys who Damian Lillard loved. And yeah, they were going to have to pay him this summer, but I think they probably could have, should have, and would have. And instead, they bring back Matisse Thybulle, who can't shoot. And yes, he can defend, but they give away their best defensive player, Gary Payton II, to their arch nemesis, the Golden State Warriors, which is exactly what the Warriors needed, was Gary Payton II back. What are you doing, Portland? Trade Damian Lillard.
Is Damian Lillard not holding their feet to the fire? Is he just happy-go-lucky, making $40-50 million a year?
He must be.
And being content being in there. He must be, because they're not doing anything to get him to any kind of, well, forget championship, second round, third, anything.
Win a series or two.
I mean,
it's pretty amazing.
He must be pretty content. And then I guess he doesn't get any backlash for it because the fans, the fans love him, and he's a good
dude. He's a cool dude.
I guess that's what he wants.
It just doesn't make sense to me. Him and Bradley Beal, both good players on bad teams. Why didn't you go kick ownership in the butt and say, "Get me out of here"?
Or get those two crazy kids together somehow.
Yes,
Bradley Beal and Damian Lillard.
Yes,
wow,
that would work.
Yeah.
Like Portland for the umpteenth year in a row is not good enough to win a championship, and they're nowhere near the bottom where they can get a lottery pick. Right. I don't understand what y'all are doing up there. Charlotte, they're still a mess. They added Reggie Jackson, which makes no sense to me.
He's gonna win them some games where they're not gonna get that number one pick.
He might.
He'll get hot one night and he'll win a couple of them.
They already have Terry Rozier, LaMelo Ball. Like, what are y'all doing down there? You got 3-point guards?
They want to play some good games of 21 in practice.
Yeah.
They want to have some 3-point shooting contests.
So.
Yeah.
Charlotte makes no sense to me. And the last team I have is a loser, and I saw a lot of other people saying they're a winner, is Utah. Well, sorry, Utah, you're not. You didn't make yourself bad enough to get yourself in the bottom three.
Yeah.
You gave away 3 quality players that I would have thought would have commanded maybe not quite a first-round pick each, but like 3/4 of one, okay? Malik Beasley, he's like not quite – he's not going to get a number one. But if you combine him with Mike Conley, that sounds like a number one pick.
Possible, yeah.
Jared Vanderbilt, not a number one pick in return, but if you combine him with Malik Beasley, that sounds like a number one pick. You gave away 3 quality players, and all you got was 1 pick in return. That's not good enough, and you didn't make yourself bad enough to get into the bottom 3.
So they stayed in no man's land like Portland.
Yes.
Yeah. Maybe I think we were talking about earlier, maybe they just won too many games. I mean, they came out the gates, their first 20 games, they were rocking and rolling.
Hot.
And maybe they just won too many games to get in those sweepstakes down there with the Spurs and Houston and Orlando.
What a bummer that they screwed themselves in the first 3 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
Last weird one to me was Pat Beverly leaving Los Angeles, going to the Magic for Mo Bamba. Hey, Magic, what you need Patrick Beverly for, right?
Is that a buyout waiting to happen?
It has to be.
Yeah, what is that going?
It has to be. And why would you give up on Mo Bamba to the Lakers when there were other teams that were like, hey, Mo Bamba might be our answer?
Yeah.
Like, you could have gotten something better than just a buyout and a second-round pick. I don't know what they're doing down there. Look, I give a major bravo to the Spurs. Kudos to the Suns.
Spurs, 3 first-round picks, 2024 and 2025. Those are legit 3 first-round picks. And they aren't going to be those first-round picks. We had 3 last year where, like, they're 25th and 28th. I think these 3 first-round picks will be, like, top 20 type. All 3 will be in the top maybe 18, 17.
Cool.
That's much more interesting than your second first-round pick 24 and your last one 28. Yeah.
Do you agree with me that the talent pool is such now for the league that look, there were 38 second-rounders traded yesterday. That's a record.
Yeah.
38. They were throwing them away like confetti at a party. I think that's a huge mistake, man. The talent pool has never been deeper, and I'm all for the Spurs getting as many bites at the apple as possible.
Yeah, it's like playing the lotto to a certain extent. If
Yes.
you get 4 chances in the second round, you may get a Draymond Green, you may get a Nikola Jokic, you may get one of these guys that fall all the way down there. Absolutely, I completely agree.
Fred Van Vliet, another one of our guys.
Right.
I mean, Alex Caruso. The league is full of these guys, okay? And
absolutely.
It's only filling up more with them because there's just more good players available. I mean, I think there's going to be a 3rd round one of these days. All right, how'd we do on our trade deadline, Bob? Do we have you thoroughly confused?
Absolutely.
With us NBA dorking out?
Absolutely.
All right. Fair enough.
Going really, really deep.
What are you doing for the Super Bowl, bro?
Hanging out with a friend of mine.
Gotcha.
I won't say my nickname for him on air.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'll do it off air.
Uh-oh.
All right. Sounds interesting. Marcus, what you got?
We always do pizza and wings. It's a tradition. So pizza and wings. My daughter makes really good wings, or sometimes we go buy them, or it's combination. And Yeah, pizza and wings is the go-to all the time.
Do you have any prop bets or do you have any locks for this Super Bowl? Because we were talking about it last week. I have never felt more unsure about who's going to win a Super Bowl than I do this year. And I've been wrong plenty of times, but at least I was sure about who I thought was going to win. I have no clue this time around.
Very hard to handicap this Super Bowl this year because it's a weird dynamic. I think Philadelphia has the best team. We're talking about players from in the trenches to the back end, all over the place. I think Philadelphia is not head and shoulders, but pretty, I would say 65-35, a better team than the Chiefs. One problem with that, the Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes. They have the best player on the almost said the court. There you go with the NBA stuff. On the field when they have the ball. So it's like, what do you do there? Because if you put Jalen Hurts in a position where he's got to win the game and you get up on him, is Jalen Hurts good enough to maybe with his shoulder thing? We don't know what's going on there. They're saying it's okay, but, of course, that's what they're going to say. Can he win you the game? The Eagles have the best team. They're going to have to get on top of the Kansas City Chiefs and make Pat Mahomes beat them from behind. Mm-hmm. And Pat Mahomes has been a great quarterback in this league. He's the second best thing I've seen to Dan Marino. The only blemish on his record is, have you ever looked at his Super Bowl stats? They're horrific.
No.
He's like a 57% completion. He's like only thrown 2 touchdowns to 4 or 5 interceptions. He's really bad in the Super Bowl. So can the Eagles make him bad again? And that's going to be the whole key. And I think that they can. I think I take that -1.5, and I take it reluctantly. It's something I'm not like, what do the gamblers say? I'm not rushing to the window to bet, but gun to my head, I'm taking Philly because I think they have the best team 1 through 53 except Mahomes.
Yes, I agree with you.
And so that's a dynamic that's really weird. So the Chiefs have to get up on them, and Mahomes control the game. If not, Kansas City's in trouble, and Pat Mahomes will struggle in the Super Bowl just like he's had his whole career in the Super Bowl.
I lean your direction. I think the Eagles can play ball control, which is something you got to do if you want to beat the Chiefs. You got to control the clock. Give Mahomes the fewest number of chances you can possibly give him, fewest number of possessions in a game. Keep him to 8 or something like that, and you're going to love it, right? They can do that. Miles Sanders, a little bit of running from Jalen Hurts, some underneath stuff that they can throw to Goddard, can keep the chains moving. I think that's a good recipe. They can also rush the passer. Led the league in sacks this year. If they can get pressure to Mahomes, that is bad for Kansas City.
Just like Tampa Bay did, just like San Francisco did. Yep. I mean, Mahomes could be 0-2 in the Super Bowl if not for Jimmy Garoppolo crapping the bed and Kyle Shanahan crapping the bed as they normally do in big games.
You're hurting Bob.
Yeah, there. I mean that's what they do. No, well this time it wasn't Shanahan's fault.
No, it was God's fault.
Actually, to be honest,
you're blaming the Lord.
I'm still going all the way to the top.
Actually,
blaming God.
It was if he made that call to put the backup tight end blocking Hassan Riddick on that throw where Purdy got hurt. I guess it was his fault. I guess you could say it was his fault. I was going to say it's not their fault. They play with Josh Johnson.
Well, it was his fault for not challenging that reception incompletion.
That was not a reception. And his explanation wasn't it. We couldn't see it, right? But if there's any little question, go ahead. That's so important. That was a 4th down play. You got to call timeout, Bob. You got to call timeout.
No. I get you, and that's what home field advantage gives you, is they don't put that replay up on the big screen right away. Should have been better with his staff up in the press box. Yeah. And the other key was that receiver got up, went right to the line, said, snap the ball, snap the ball,
He
snap
gave
the ball.
secret signal with his fists of like, hey, boys, I didn't catch that. We need to get this play off really fast.
And if that challenge goes down, the butterfly effect happens, and Riddick doesn't come around the edge and hit Purdy on his elbow and give him a big owie.
Yeah, I mean, Shanahan has to call timeout right there as soon as he sees Devontae Smith, but it doesn't matter. Lose a timeout, it's worth it. If it was a 2nd down play, I wouldn't be bad-mouthing Shanahan. That was a 4th and 3, if you remember.
I get it. I remember.
And that was a 7-point turnaround. Right off the bat. So, yeah,
Yeah.
And go ahead.
I was just going to tell you that as we look at the Super Bowl, I have one prop, and I gave it out earlier this week, but I'm going to give it to you man-to-man right here. Isaiah Pacheco has been on the come-up for the Kansas City Chiefs. I think they have found out that they don't need Jerick McKinnon as much as they used to be the back out of the backfield, swing patterns, wheel routes, etc. for running backs. Over 1.5 for Isaiah Pacheco receptions, and over 14.5 yards total receiving for
That's
Isaiah.
what it is?
Yes.
He might get that in the first drive.
He might get it on the first play.
That doesn't make any sense.
That's where it is.
One thing that Pacheco does, the Eagles' defense is really good. They're nasty, right? So what do you do to them? You got to run violently. Pacheco runs violently. Have you watched him run?
Yeah.
He don't give a damn.
No.
He's
strong and he's fast.
And so he runs violently. He will put pressure on the Eagles defense. They got to get that screen game going, and I think McKinnon also will get. There's going to be a hard hitting game when you sit out for two when you have a bye in between Super Bowls. Those are usually the more hard hitting Super Bowls. They're nasty.
Yeah,
because everybody's fresh.
Yeah, you're looking at a Philadelphia Eagles that love to rush with just 4, so they push hard straight up the field, which means nobody's sitting back at the line of scrimmage taking a peek out to the perimeter for backs who might be out there.
Yeah.
You got a chance to chip those defensive ends, roll out, get your little check downs to Pacheco and McKinnon. I think both of those guys are going to have big, busy nights.
You mentioned earlier what the Eagles must do to win the Super Bowl, keep Patrick Mahomes off the field. There's a famous Super Bowl 25, the Whitney Houston Bowl. Bill Parcells with the New York Giants did that to Jim Kelly and the K-Gun offense, Buffalo. He kept Jim Kelly off the field. They had the last drive of the game. Then they got the ball to start the second half.
Anderson?
Yeah, O.J. Anderson was MVP. They got the ball to start the second half. They ended the half with the ball. Then the halftime goes on for 30, 45 minutes. Jim Kelly didn't touch the ball for like an hour and 45 minutes of regular time.
Yes.
And as they say in the history, that really actually hurt the K-Gun offense. They weren't in rhythm.
Like icing the quarterback.
Right. They didn't hit. Something similar, could happen to that. You keep the ball away from Patrick Mahomes. And you mentioned to me prop bets earlier. Yeah. I think a couple of slam dunk prop bets for the Philadelphia Eagles is over 143 yards rushing for the game, the entire game. They go on a long drive, the first drive, a 75-yard drive, and they get 60 yards rushing. Hell, that's almost half the 143 right there on the first drive of the game. I think it's a slam dunk. Philadelphia Eagles, 143 yards rushing over, right?
I like it.
30 attempts of rushing. That's over. And so those are two, I think, that are slam dunk. The other one is go to the defense. It's only 2.5 sacks for Mahomes. I think the Eagles will end up with at least 3 to 4 sacks, and that's on the low end.
If they're having to come from behind, he's going to have to drop back a ton, especially late in the game. That opens up, late in the second quarter, late in the fourth quarter, easy sacks come around.
I don't have to tell Bob this. They come at you. The Eagles defense comes at you, and 2.5 sacks to me. I think you get to the window on that one. Yeah, it's at least 3, and that's putting it. That's the mild one. The other one is rushing touchdowns for the Eagles, 1.5. I think they get 2.
Over. Yeah.
So there's 4 rushing touchdowns, 1.5, sacks 2.5, yardage for the entire game for the Eagles, 143 rushing yardage, and 30 and a half rushing attempts. Those 4 prop bets, I think you take to the bank.
Thanks, Marcus. I enjoyed being with you, brother.
Yes, sir.
Hey, man, join us next week on The Unrestricted. We get to talk some Super Bowl, kind of rehash what happened. It's going to be a good one.
Yep.
I hope it's going to be a great one.
I hope it's going to be a great one, but I also hope that the Eagles are utterly humiliated.
God, you are just so bitter.
Consistently bitter.
Go blame God. See you, boys.
Right. How y'all feel out there? Do you feel good? I said, do you feel good? Come on. The groove feel good when it make you move. Make your next move your best move. I said the groove feel good when it make you move. Make your next move your best move. It feel good, don't it? It feel good. It feel good cause you know it's good.